Terrifying moment. Ukrainian special forces destroyed an entire Russian convoy heading to frontline. Fighting is raging on the southern front in Ukraine, as Russia attempts to prevent Kiev's forces from widening a breach near the village of Robotyne in Zaporizhzhia. Ukrainian special forces wiped out a Russian convoy after stalking it for weeks, according to Ukraine's general staff. Intense video shows the moment the team called in an artillery strike on the Russian targets hidden in a tree line. Ukraine's general staff claimed 5 infantry fighting vehicles and 2 trucks were destroyed in the shelling. The footage shows several vehicles alight. The general staff said, "In the course of combat tasks in the Zaporizhzhia direction, information about the movement of the opponent's equipment was received. The BPAK Special Operations Forces Group launched an air reconnaissance to identify and confirm targets." The Ukrainian news service RIA Melitopol claimed that units dubbed Rabid Panda and Saint had tracked the column through a village in Tokmak district for more than 2 weeks before the strike. The news comes amid heavy fighting on the southern Zaporizhzhia front around the settlements of Robotyne, Verbov, and Tokmak. Earlier this month, Ukraine recaptured Robotyne, and Kiev's forces are attempting to capitalize on the victory and expand the breach in the area. Towards Verbov, Ukrainian vehicles have been pictured behind Russian defenses, but fighting in the area is ongoing. The city of Tomak, about 20 kilometers from the front, is a major hub for Russian forces in the region, and its capture would be a significant victory for Ukraine. To shore up defenses in the south, Russia has reportedly been forced to move troops from the east, allowing some Ukrainian gains there. Tanks have been a defining feature of land warfare for over a century, and the war in Ukraine is no exception. Thousands of tanks and armored vehicles have been destroyed since Russia attacked in February 2022. An unusual feature of that fighting has been that both sides are using the same or similar models of tanks. That commonality is a reflection of the Soviet military's lasting legacy. While updated variants and new models have been introduced since the Soviet disintegration in 1991, most of the tanks being used in Ukraine were designed and many of them built during the Cold War. While it may not be surprising that old tanks have vulnerabilities, nearly 2 years of combat have put their outdated qualities on full display. The most common tank at the front has been the T-72. Introduced in 1973, it's the backbone of the Russian Armored Corps and is one of the most widely used main battle tanks in the world. Weighing about 45 tons, the T-72 has a crew of 3, a commander, a driver, and a gunner, and is armed with a 125mm smoothbore gun capable of firing tank rounds and anti-tank missiles. It also has a coaxial 7.62mm machine gun mounted in the hull and a 12.7mm heavy machine gun on the turret. The T-72 is equipped with an autoloader and carries about 38 rounds 22 in a carousel at the bottom of the turret, and the rest stored in the turret. There are multiple T-72 variants, some with their own sub-variants. The most modern in Russian service are the T-72B3 and the T-72B3M, which have improved sights, electronics, engines, and, on the B3M, a new gun. They also rely heavily on explosive reactive armor, explosive blocks mounted on the exterior that detonate outward to counter incoming anti-armor projectiles, though it can add as much as 2 tons in weight. The T-72B3M only entered service in 2017, but it already has a sub-variant, the T-72B3M OBR 2022, which has been modified based on lessons from Ukraine. The Russians have also employed the T-80 in large numbers. Introduced in 1976, the T-80 is slightly larger and heavier than the T-72. It has a 125mm smoothbore gun that also fires tank rounds and anti-tank missiles, a coaxial PKT machine gun, and a 12.7mm heavy machine gun on the turret. The T-80 also has a crew of 3 and an ammo carousel at the base of the turret that holds at least 28 rounds. The tank carries about 40 rounds total, and an autoloader. The T-80 is unique for having a gas turbine engine instead of a traditional diesel engine, and for having an especially large amount of ERA blocks. The Russians primarily use 3 T-80 variants, the T-80U, T-80BV, and T-80BVM, which are distinguishable by how their ERA blocks are arrayed. The T-80BVM has also been upgraded as a result of experiences in Ukraine, resulting in a new sub-variant, the T-80BVM OBR 2023.